everyone. Welcome to the Space in Between podcast, a safe place where real people come and talk about real issues. I'm Shani, and if this is your first time hanging with us, we want to welcome you. We are happy to have you, and we don't want to lose you, so be sure to hit that subscribe button so we can stay connected. And we want to give a special shout out to our space family in the Philippines. Yay! You guys, we want you to keep listening, keep tuning in, like and subscribe, and share it with everybody that you know. So in the space tonight, I'm joined by my hubby, Kyrie. Say what's up.
What's up, y'all?
And Village fam, we have Cherie, Lorenzo, and Jordan. And tonight, you guys, it's all about Kamala.
Kamala.
But wait. You know I'm in countdown mode, right? It's 82 days until Election Day. Yes, we cannot wait. 82 days. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to see how everybody doing. I know the Bellamy's, you guys are just getting back from traveling during COVID. So how was that?
Traveling during COVID.
On the plane, 2 hours wearing a mask. That was different.
Before that, as soon as you hit the airport.
Yeah.
2 hours wearing a mask. Okay.
We appreciated the mask.
10 seconds to get through security.
Oh, that's good.
It's very easy.
Buddy there.
No one wants to touch any of your things. Keep your ID to yourself.
Yeah.
I personally think this is how it should be, and it should have been.
Our resident
The social distancing of the seats, that would needed to happen a really long time
They
ago.
didn't do it though. Right?
Well, we were together because we were a family.
Sure.
Right. Well, we arranged for that. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, we needed to be doing that.
You
And,
still stay masked up.
oh, no, masked up. Because when you think about it, the germs, people breathing on you, and,
So it was a good trip. It was 2 hours. I don't know what it would feel like going to Europe
5
or
hours.
going
Yeah.
across,
like to California.
So that,
Yeah, I don't want
that's
to find out either.
But for the 2 hours, people were fine. Most people were
Everybody cooperated.
very chill. So it was good. It was
That's
good.
good. That's good. Yep. So you were there for a wedding. So your first COVID wedding.
Yes, we were there for a wedding. It was a beautiful wedding.
It looked like it.
Yeah, some good friends, and I mean it was nice. I mean we traveled to Illinois, which is
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get into the topic. It's all about Kamala today.
Yay!
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about Biden's VP pick that we just found out just recently. And let's get into it. So let's give everybody just general overall opinions or emotions about or thoughts about the pick. So we'll go with all the Bellamy's. We'll start with Lorenzo. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
I think it's the announcement was one of the greatest days for America and one of the best news we've heard in a long time. Of all the bad news that we're hearing about COVID and obviously the killings and just everything that's happening in the news here in this country and globally, to hear that Biden picked Kamala Harris as his VP nominee, VP partner, I think that was excellent news for the day. I was glued to the TV as much as I could and couldn't wait to hear her speech. So it was great. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about you, Cherie?
Just still catching up with the just all the emotions of the choice, to see someone who really has an opportunity to occupy the VP and possibly, the presidency one day, who looks like us, in the midst of a global pandemic, in the midst of Black Lives Matter, and just all the emotions of so much death for the community, for her candidacy and for Biden to select her. I'm actually overwhelmed. Just the significance of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And she is more than qualified. I think we will benefit from her intellect. We will benefit from her knowledge. We will benefit from her experience. But we will also benefit from leadership that is empathetic.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a long overdue choice, but it's a choice that we need to have at this moment because our nation needs healing, physically, the disease, emotionally, psychologically. So I think, Biden really made a great choice,
Yeah.
which shows, that was his thought process. So I'm happy about his decision making skills thus far. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So my response, I have three key things. The first is the quote from Malcolm X: "If you have no critics, you'll likely have no success." And certainly Kamala Harris has her critics on both sides of the aisle, from the far left progressive wing, from certainly the far right for her mean and angry nature, and her perceived mean and angry nature, and even from a moderate perspective as well, which to me is a symbol of a perfect, I'm going to say perfect, but a strategic and well-poised politician, to have upset in some ways. It's mediation. If no one leaves the room happy, that is a good mediation. And I think she's well positioned to be the voice and mind needed for this nation right now. The second thing I want to say is, I was reflecting, I said, certainly we're going to have this in our moment. We're engaging in the kind of nexus of identity politics that have been on the rise, really truly since the 60s, but even more so since 2016, hit landmark again 18, and now 2020. And so for me, what I was able to kind of see in this, though, I asked myself the question, does she transcend the identity even in this moment of 2020? And that to me, I would said yes. And even in this moment, even if nothing were to happen, even if George Floyd did not happen, she makes an excellent ballot ticket. And for that, I end with the word gravitas, which is something that she expressed all throughout her campaign, her willingness to call out Biden on the busing matters, to her well-poised nature on various talk shows and not really degrading and putting other politicians down, but willing to speak truth, but not in a bulldogish way. And then just following up on her most recent talk announcement in Delaware with VP, or soon to be hopefully VP Biden, or President Biden. And so I think what the country has to do now is just sit back and not allow themselves to feel coddled and get to the polls.
Yes, don't be coddled and get to the polls. Yes, I think I agree with everyone. It was a historic day. It was just such a beautiful thing to be able to witness and to look at, and the imagery of the ticket was really good to see. And like you, Lorenzo, I spent a lot of time like glued to the TV and with the girls and just celebrating. It was such a moment to celebrate. And I think that Biden's his kind of slogan for his campaign is "Battle for the Soul of the Nation," and I really think that it captures well, like just the moment that I feel like this is a battle, and it is a battle for the soul of our nation. And I think that he chose a running mate. He chose a partner that definitely is battle ready, battle prepared, but she's also nurturer. She also has, I think, Sheree, you mentioned that empathy. And I really liked seeing that you were able to see all those different sides of her in her speech when they came out, like from the I can be tough and let's call it out, like you have done nothing, or you have, I think she said, ran it in the ground, Trump, that side. But you also have this other side that she was able to show, which was just, you know, compassionate and relatable and accessible, you know, and I think that she gives like that good balance. So I am, you know, excited about the choice. So it was good. What do you think?
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking about, in kind of the way Jordan was thinking about it from the standpoint of transcendence. And and as I think about and I look through her career, you know, being the first district attorney, Black district attorney, you know, in California, being the first Black attorney general, you know, in California, and then obviously replacing Barbara Boxer in California as a senator. You know, she's made it's crazy in 2020 that there's still so many firsts, right? In this respect, you know, you think you've come a long way, and then you're like, oh, they're the first. You're like, really? And yeah, really. And so with this, and I kept thinking about it, you know, projecting a little bit, but if Biden does win, then what happens is she becomes the first Black vice president.
Yeah.
Forget about woman or not, first Black vice president. Then on top of that, she becomes the first female vice president, regardless of all, you know, Geraldine Ferraro during in the 80s was trying to be one, but obviously that campaign fell apart. But and then on top of that, she'll be the first Asian, you know, Asian American because of her on her mother's side, you know, in the White House. So it's like a trifecta of things with her, with Biden's election, with her coming in as the VP, hitting a lot of different spots. So I think it is history still being made. Hopefully history will record this as a victory in that respect. But I just think about all these things that I've seen in my lifetime, you know, whether it's the Berlin Wall falling, whether it's the end of the Iron Curtain, you know, all these different things, our apartheid ending, you know, all these different things that I've seen in just my short lifetime, and be able to see the first Black president and now potentially the first Black vice president and female at that, potentially the first Black female president, hopefully in 2024 if Biden, I mean, let's just say it, either he doesn't make it or he doesn't run again, potentially becoming a first, you know, female president of the United States, again, a first. And all I can do is every time I keep looking at my daughters and I say, yeah, you can too. You know, I remember when Obama was elected and Layla was an infant, you know, I wrote a note because I was so compelled, you know, by what I was seeing, just to say, you know, I for the first time in my life, I can really truly say you can be anything you want. And really mean it. You know, you can be a lot of different things, but to be the leader of the highest, you know, democratic nation in the world, that was like almost unthinkable. So yeah.
Yeah. Pretty historic.
Pretty significant.
Very significant. There are some people that, you know, some of the comments some folks had a lot of, I guess you would say challenge, or maybe doesn't feel like she really earned it because there was so much pressure put on Biden that he had to choose a female and she had to be Black, you know? And so I wanted just to talk about like that. And I've heard, you know, two different sides of it. I've heard the side of, well, yeah, like from, you know, there are some folks, some people that are like, yes, we need to ask and demand for what we want, we as Black people. And so demanding and saying your VP pick needs to be a Black female is something that we should have done, or that should happen. And that should be normal and good. Like, you know, it's time that we do that. And then the other, you know, kind of this other side of it, it almost seems like it discredits any female, you know, who would have been chosen, any Black female who would have been chosen, because it seems like, oh, well, he had to, you know, it's the thing that he had to do in order to secure votes. And I just wanted to know, what do you think about that when you heard mention that Biden needed to pick a Black female vice president? Do you think that the pressure and the call for that was good and necessary, or do you think that it's harmful?
Well, I think it's just the natural outgrowth of what the Democratic Party looks like. The Democratic Party does not look like Biden, right? I mean, that's just, and I think he and his advisors and any smart person that's around him could tell him that. And I think he recognized that. So I think, and he also knows that African-American women, African-Americans, in general, but African-American women specifically, have been the backbone of the Democratic Party. And without the African-American women vote, Democratic candidates don't do very well. So I think, pragmatically, I think just politically, it was the right move, but it's also the sign of the times of what this country looks like and who makes up this country, and specifically who makes up the Democratic Party. So they can claim it was pressure, or he had no choice, or this, that, the other. You look at all the women that were running for president, or who are governors or senators in this country. I mean, to me, it was a no-brainer that he had a large pool of overly qualified women to pick from. So I don't think, and they are all, capable of being president at any moment. So I think it was a smart move. I think it was the right move. I think, he recognizes what this country looks like and what it stands for. And I think that picking Kamala, I think, is a clear example of where America is, whether it looks like this in 2050 or 2036. I think he recognized that this was a historic moment and it was the right thing to do. So I don't think pressure per se. I think he recognized if he wants to win and wants to have a good ticket and a smart ticket, he picked the right person.
Yeah, and I also think about it in the sense that what does it say that, for her to be judged in terms of being a Black woman as the VP pick, or him being pressured into it? It's almost in the same way that Mike Pence's credentials to be vice president, regardless of what your party affiliation is diminished because he happens to be from the Midwest, and Trump needed somebody from the Midwest to carry that vote. Or, Ronald Reagan needed George Bush because he was from Texas. I think there are smart reasons why you pick your VP, and you pick your VP for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes part about who they are and where they're from, but also because I think, as was also mentioned by Lorenzo, and I know Cherie's going to mention, in terms of their actual credentials, what they can actually bring to that ticket and how they can actually, move forward that platform. Also, I look at it from the second point is, look who his cabinet is. Look at who his campaign is comprised of. It's comprised of some of the smartest Black women on the planet, advising him. And he chose these women because he's like, listen, I know I'm an old white guy. I'm not stupid. I'm not blind. I know what's going on. He actually took the temperature of the room and said, if I'm going to do something that is more transformational, I need to have a transformational type of campaign and people behind me advising me, from that standpoint. And so when he made that declaration that he was going to choose not only a woman, but ultimately down the line, a Black woman to be the VP candidate, it was the natural progression of someone that's recognizing, I think as Lorenzo said, the times, that is recognized that, no, there needed to be some changes. It does need to look different. It does need to feel different. And think about it. The guy we just had in here has made for 40 years, a craft of doing dog whistle and racial identity politics, whether before he was in politics and now while he's in politics. Mm-hmm. So, no, we need to make a change and do something different. And I thought that was a very smart decision on his part and his campaign to say, no, we got to make this ticket look a lot different than it normally does.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to say, I hear that and I have to calm myself down because if we were a healthy nation, let's just be honest, if we were a healthy nation, if we did not suffer from the disease of racism, of sexism, of classism, Joe Biden would not have had to, well, maybe we would not have had a Trump in the first place.
Right.
Joe Biden would not have had to run for president as almost a rescue mission.
Yeah.
Okay. If we were a healthy nation, we wouldn't be talking about Kamala Harris as vice president. We would be talking about her as president.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that.
It's all over your face. It's all over your face. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it is, I do think that it is just, I think the comments that, you know, that we're getting, and I mean, gosh, has it been 24 hours or 48 hours? I don't know how long since the announcement, but the comments that, you know, she's getting and that she will get, it just speaks to just the unhealthiness of where we are as a nation. And one of the things I wanted to talk about is just this angry Black woman. And as Black females, we know it. We understand we understand how we get typed, or, you know, especially when we're in certain rooms and having certain conversations, we know how to navigate those spaces so that we don't get the angry Black woman kind of stamp on us. But it's interesting that one of the comments that she already has been described as from President Trump is angry. He's used that term. She's angry. She's nasty. She's a nasty woman. And I think that, you know, so much it's not just fighting what she'll have to fight as just a woman, and is she qualified as a woman to lead, but this almost kind of fear of the angry Black woman at the helm, or the angry Black woman that's so close to running the country, and just, you know, what she's going to have to deal with as far as that, and what he's going to have to deal with it in the campaign, and how they're going to have to deal with that will be interesting.
Yeah, well, we've already walked out some of that with Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
Early on with Barack's campaign and then his presidency, and the way she was treated, it was an abomination.
Yeah.
And yet when they go low, we go high. That was the response. And I think that's the only response that one can have to the tropes that are rolled out. I am that Trump is saying she's a nasty woman. That's what any woman that is walks in her authority, knows her mind, challenges him, is a nasty woman. So she's in great company. And the angry Black woman, quite frankly, is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of thoughts about the angry Black woman, but
I'm noting that. That is a whole other podcast.
Listeners, send Chantel a note through however you all communicate to her if you want to have a conversation about, if you want to unpack what all that's, the angry Black woman.
And you know, Shawnee, you know, she's a let's not forget that she is a prosecutor. I mean, she was, as Kyrie said, the district attorney for San Francisco. She was the attorney general in California. She served on the Senate Judiciary Committee. You know, when she was, I guess, interviewing, you know, Kavanaugh, you know, she was acting and trying to find truth and you know, using her skills as a prosecutor to get to the bottom line. And the fact that people, you know, and it's interesting, man does that and it's like, you know, he's being inquisitive, he's being, you know, the woman does that and it's like, oh, she's the angry, you know, in this case, an African angry Black woman, and all she's doing is using her training and her skills to try to get to the truth, to try to get the right answers, and is prosecutorial in that nature, which is fine in that context. So for Trump and others to call her, you know, nasty and angry when she's basically doing her job and being a prosecutor, you know, is, you know, it just goes to what she said about, you know, sexism and you know, and gender issues, and a big problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, even part of the commentary was that, oh, she's too ambitious. Like before she was actually selected, was that she was too ambitious. So like, well, he's not going to pick her because she's going to try to go for his seat. I mean, go for his presidency next, and all this other stuff. And people are like, Okay, and so you're not, nobody's a wallflower, in going into the presidency. So if she is ambitious, she's ambitious for the same reason Joe Biden is. She wanted to be president, right? She wants to be president, probably. And she has every right to be, as an American citizen, to be president. So yes. So what? She's ambitious. So I think, and a lot of women,
You know, Joe wants that. He was a full partner with President Obama. I expect that he wants a full partner in Kamala Harris. So,
no, without a doubt. And I think it's very telling that, yes, we have to still fight these very sexist, classist stereotypes in terms of you need to be in your place. Women really shouldn't be this or that and the other. And we still have to fight that in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Jordan, what's the word with your age group with this?
So first I want to say good. She's an angry Black. Just that's all I really want to say to that, because at this point I'm gonna pivot that and see it as a compliment. Because if you didn't see me, we should be angry. That's called conviction. She is Black. Congratulations. Would she be an angry white man or white woman?
No,
not because she's not.
No.
So to me, she represents good. You have moral compass, maybe something we've been missing.
Right.
And I'll just say that. So I just want to put that for the record. Angry Black woman. It's such a drawn, grand old party, and honestly, just general theme that's been thrown out. That it's old news. It's like, okay, and it's kind of like when you've been bullied and they keep calling you, your mama's so da da da. Okay, after a while, you just like move on.
Right.
On the different narrative. And I think the repetitive nature of the arguments against her show just how powerful she is going to be, and just how seriously they're taking her, and how fearful they truly are. Yeah. And so you're playing a poker game, they've shown their hand. But moving on, because we don't want to waste time on that. My age group's very interesting. I'm going to read to you something that has been going around on my Instagram that I recently posted today, by a man. Hold on one second, because I don't want to butcher his name.
That's right. Get it right, girl.
Get it right. See, unlike what did they call her? Because I recognize the importance of saying someone's name correctly.
That's right.
There's a little heat here among the Black women.
Sorry. Yeah, I am angry.
Maybe we are a little angry.
I am angry.
We definitely have to have that conversation.
400 years of slavery. That would make me angry too. Oops. So this gentleman, Mohammed Safa, says, best voting advice. Voting isn't marriage. It's public transport. You're not waiting for quote unquote the one. You're getting on the bus, and if there isn't one going exactly to your destination, you don't stay home and sulk. You take the one that's going to be closest to where you want to be.
Oh, love that.
That is the temperament of our generation right now. And I don't speak for all of us, because I know we all have the person that we want. But reality check, this isn't Burger King. I'm sorry if we grew up in a coddled nation, but it's time to, grow up here, get to the polls, and do the right thing. And this is the right thing at this moment. And if the very fact we're not in school is a concrete, evidence of why it's the right thing. And not to mention the millions of people that have died that due to this virus and particularly as world leaders. I mean, we should not be sitting down following the lead of other countries, although we accept our humility. But we should be leading it, given our financial resources and how great we call ourselves to be at the table, the chairman of the dialogue surrounding coronavirus. steps. But my age group, I would say, it's interesting because I would say most of us are like, yeah, this is the right thing. Like, we're not, I know for me, I have been more moderate in my policies. And so to me, initially, Senator Harris, I've always admired her. She's often come off a little like progressive for me. But as I've developed in my political maturity and got kind of developed into more her policies, have seen, okay, where she stands on healthcare actually is a bit more moderate. And, let me just be clear, these aren't progressive issues anymore surrounding LGBTQ plus matters and Black Lives Matter movement. Those are just called human issues. And if you aren't on board with it, that's a lack of natural affection. But moving. But
whoa, with my mic.
Moving on, that's no longer a political question or a religious question. That's a issue with a human. That's a human question. And are you engaged in humanity? And if not, there are places for you, but I don't know at the polls. But anyway, the point being and all this, my parents are really staring me down here. You can see the parental.
Cut her mic.
The YouTube version of this podcast will be most entertaining with all the looks.
They're doing the Jordan brace is what I call it.
Somebody squeezing your leg on the side, like squeezing your leg, like.
I have to be authentic. I trust them to edit, what they need to. But here's the thing. I would say our age group also is in this position where I know a lot of people, especially young Black women, have been a concern has been her record as a prosecutor.
Yeah.
Not being particularly as progressive as she seems to be, and that is, that's a valid concern. I don't want to say these things and dismiss it. That is a legitimate and valid concern, and I think truthfully it needs to be addressed in some way. I think she's going to have to, I think Senator Harris has had to be very strategic in how she worked the political arena. I think some of the decision processing she's made might have been from a place of power brokering, which I'm sorry, I guess Otto von Bismarck said, laws are like making sausage. No one wants to do it, but everyone likes to eat, the sausage. It's not a pleasant process.
Right.
And so what we're seeing is the kind of internal, when you go and delve into someone's life, we all have baggage and we all have things that we might, look back and maybe said, oh, I wish I didn't do that. And here's the thing. I think regardless of where she stands on it, addressing it will just make clear her conviction. I think the biggest thing with Kamala Harris right now in our generation is, my age group is, there's some ambiguity when it comes to her stance on certain policies. We know she's clear on her social policies, women's health issues and rights, and LGBTQ plus education, and even what I think she brings to the table, which no one has really mentioned, is her involvement with tech, which is going to be critical in this next election cycle, and certainly in the next years. Having taken down, was it Backpage, I believe, which was a sexual harassment website. So her background in tech and being able to navigate and understand that world, which is something that has been lacking in the political arena right now. But all that being said, she has to be really clear on where she aligns on her political affiliation, and she needs to be clear on how she's going to come across as a team player with Biden. And I think that's something we're looking at now, because the truth of it is we've only seen her as a competitor. We have never seen her as a team player. And so I think that is something that we're looking to see. As my age group, we're trying to see how is she going to create some harmony with, Joe Biden. But I was talking to some of my friends, and one of them texted me the night she was announced on Instagram and said, I remember almost about 18 months ago, you predicted this ticket before, obviously, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. In Oxford, we were in a kitchen and all discussing who we thought the candidate would be, and I said I believe it's going to be a Biden Harris, some people through Warren, but I believed that we would see Harris rise because she has, like I said, gravitas that I honestly I've seen in all the other candidates, but I really believe she had that ability to unite in a way that I haven't seen other candidates be able to do. Probably because she's upset every kind of person on the political spectrum. But I don't know. I think we're going to all turn out. I think we are convicted as a age group to know we got to get out. She's not our one, but it's not marriage, like the guy said. Said. And we're going to do our civic duty. But, you know, I think if we had it our way, if my age group had it their way, I'm happy for the record. I'm very happy. Yeah. But if if I had to poll my age group, I would say people would love to see probably more of a Bernie and Warren. Yeah. That's Bernie Warren. Yeah. And then from the far right side, Kasich or a Mitt Romney.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up some good points here, and in terms of some of the weaknesses, I think one of the reasons why her campaign collapsed so early is because, one, people just didn't really know who she was. And then two, I think there was that wishy-washiness on her platform in terms of what she stood for that people just kind of got turned off by. You know, on the healthcare question, she got stumbled up on that, and then had to come back and you know and clarify the record. Even in terms of the progressive prosecutor stance, which when you look at those actually that really are progressive prosecutors, she doesn't even come close. I mean, with, you know, the standing for 3 strikes or out law, the, you know, and other things, not as hands-on with the California police, with the LA police specifically, in terms of how they treated people, you know, the numerous amount of Black men and women that went to jail, you know, under her tutelage in many ways, you know. So there are a lot of, as you said, there are a lot of weaknesses from that standpoint that if you are a Trump campaign staffer, strategist, you're like, hit this, that, because if you know that part of the Democratic strength is that Black and brown movement, you want to hit them where it hurts. And with her, it hits them where it hurts. You know, I thought the reason why he didn't choose Susan Rice because of the whole Benghazi scandal, right? And how it kind of got landed on her lap in terms of the Benghazi. But my point was, I was like, that's actually, I think, an easier thing to overcome with your base, your broader demographic than it is with this piece, which is, I think, with the police, you know, where basically people are like, no, she's a cop. That's the label. She's a cop. And that's a hard thing to overcome within the minority community from that standpoint.
You know, Karen, if I can just add this thing, it would be, you know, she, let's see what I was going to say here. Actually, I lost my train of thought.
Well, while you're collecting your train of thought, I was going to say, I love Susan Rice. I was concerned about whether or not this generation, but Xers, you know, and some baby boomers would associate her with the Clintons. And so I was concerned about, obviously, Benghazi, but that association with that regime. And I didn't know if she would be able to overcome that, or if she would be someone who would be considered radioactive for some, but still, even though the Black and brown folk are needed, I think we still need to make sure that we have to have some white people in the suburbs come out and vote. And I know that the Trump campaign would have loved a Susan Rice. They wanted Susan Rice. So because they could weaponize her, I think, a little bit easier than Kamala Harris. They still haven't figured out what box to put her in. And yes, she is a cop, or that's what the box that they want to put her in, or maybe that's what that will be their strategy, I think that she has a response. You know, I think that she can make the case. I chose to be a prosecutor because prosecutors do decide what charges and what goes to trial, and you know, yeah, she has to own those places that maybe she wish she had chose differently, but I,
Or maybe not.
or maybe not.
If
She
you
does.
have
She
drug
does.
traffickers, they got to go to jail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she does,
but the point was, you know, there was where there were cops that, you know, shot, where there was a cop that shot another young man, and she chose not to prosecute him.
Yeah, so there's the issue of qualified immunity as well.
So she's gonna have to answer to that. But I still kind of think that might. I mean, who knows? I mean, we're in a different climate.
Yeah.
But I still think that might be an easier thing for us to navigate, because it would be trying to get Black people not to vote for her. And I think we are more committed to getting Trump out of the White House than maybe a white person in the suburbs who could be, you know, who they could say, oh, if he had chosen Susan Rice, oh, remember Hillary, remember Benghazi, remember. They are a weaker, they are more shakier vote. So yeah.
And I actually, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Lorenzo. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, so I remember what I was going to say, Kyra, you were talking about, you know, what they should hit her on. Like you were like, hit her on this, hit her on that, you know, make her defend this, make her defend that. And I think for the, you know, the intellectual voter, you know, that listens to that would be like, yeah, let's talk about her record as a prosecutor. Let's talk about her stance on these different things. Jordan said the Republicans are pulling out the same playbook that they used on Barack Obama and Michelle. And then what I just heard was this whole thing about, you know, the birther issue, right? And so now they're at, you know, here she is. She's born in Oakland, California, but, you know, yeah, a mother from India and a dad from Jamaica, and yet they're going to bring out this. And that is like their playbook to galvanize sort of that, you know, you know, I don't want to say racist, but just almost
It is. I'm not American.
You know, un-American, fear of the foreigner,
xenophobia.
You know, and we continue to either galvanize that base that constantly likes to hear that. They used it for Obama, and it won't go away. And I guarantee you, Trump may not say it directly because I think he's got less credibility to say it, but his lieutenants will say it, and the other, you know, the fringe groups will say it, and that attracts that base that doesn't really think about, you know, using the type of attacks that you're talking about, which is on her record, on her, you know, her policies, but we're going to look at those other things that sort of get the emotions charged up and open up that fear that they have about, you know, somebody that's other.
But you know what, as you say that, it strikes me that, quite frankly, I'm actually surprised at how weak the attacks against Harris have been, really. And you've had to been kind of like under a molehill and just completely asleep at the wheel not to figure he wasn't going to go for a Rice or Harris. Harris is always the number one, more or less, on most, you know, strategists' idea. The fact that you didn't have a whole slew of things that you could just really come at her with in some of the ads that they started releasing over the last 24 hours against her, I'm actually surprised. I'm actually looking at it like, wow, this is amateur night. This is. Or maybe not.
I mean, think about what he's doing. Like, what is
I know what he's doing.
Going to? It's like voter suppression.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm just saying the attacks, the specific attacks at which he's going at, basically saying, you know, she's a super liberal, progressive, whatever. These are so old-fashioned that it's kind of like, okay, now give me something, because I know you say that with everybody. So now give me something. You know, it's like the attacks don't seem to really be specific enough. They're just very broad and very high general. So it will appeal to his base for sure. But who cares? At this point, the Democrats are trying to win. They don't even care, you know, about that. So what are you doing to peel away? And I don't see anything that peels one single vote really away from the Biden, you know, Harris camp at this point, based on the attacks that I've seen thus far.
I don't think he's trying to peel away. I think he's trying to
I'm just trying to figure
Suppress
out.
the votes.
Yeah.
Go
That's
ahead.
peeling away.
Go ahead.
Peel away, suppress the vote, whatever. My point is to diminish the amount of folks that go out to support Biden Harris. That's my point. And my point is nothing I've seen thus far suppresses any vote or peels anyone away to his side. That's my opinion. I'm just saying.
The thing though that's interesting with Harris is she has to pick up about 34% of the American public opinion, and this was off of my parents are bracing themselves, Jordan, throughout it.
No, you're gonna do some math. Go ahead, baby. Do that math.
I can feel
34, we're at 34.
And this liberal arts
34%.
doesn't do
That's
anything.
okay.
I saw this. I didn't do the math. I saw this on the news, guys.
We're
Just
at
so,
34. Go
so
ahead.
34%, and mom did the math actually, because I almost said 24, but 34%, in terms of she had, it was like, I'm not even going to say it.
Approval rating?
It was of people who were in two camps. People who did not know her,
Oh, yes.
and then it was like 14% of people who are not, who just don't want her.
Yeah,
like
there was
who
14% decided, 20% didn't know, who is she.
So it was 34% total. That is the number that Harris and Trump are going to be focusing on, is that 34%. And that's how Trump won. He focused on that percentage of apolitical people, and he rolled up to, the Walmart, had the food trucks out, had the rallies out, and got the apolitical people to go and vote for him.
Yeah.
And 34% in a time where there has been decreased trust in the government is going to be critical to the Biden campaign, especially in states such as Pennsylvania, Florida, and surprisingly, that's putting up it kind of veering its neck for, it's probably still going to go red, but interestingly enough, could be is showing itself as a purple state, Texas. And so I think it's one of those things for me, and in that 34%, they're gonna have to hone in, which is why I think Harris is an excellent pick on particularly, I would say, white women between the ages of 30 and 55. That is where he's going to have to really hone in that base with Harris. Biden, and Biden and Harris.
Yeah.
And how they do that, it's going to be, I say pull a page from Warren. Go real specific with your policies. Now start pulling a page out of her book. Get her campaign advisor and because if you look at it, we were all kind of in our political science classes, like it was so odd because how specific her policies were. You knew it was like outrageously expensive healthcare plan, like you knew everything. And typically when you're doing a political race like this, you kind of leave some room for the imagination. And I think though with the Biden campaign, certainly I would say right before convention or certainly right after, before that debate, they need to have those clean policies out so she can prep for the debate well. And it also kind of gives her an opportunity to lay some of the cards out and refute it against the attacks the Trump campaign is going to come with early on.
But I agree with you. And I also think that campaign of getting to know her is going to be also very critical and key, and some really targeted campaigns to say, no, this is who I am and this is what I'm about, I think are also going to be very, very crucial. Sorry, go ahead, Sheree.
No, I was just going to say, I'm glad that you mentioned the 34% and we started talking about voting, because I think that we are, and you mentioned voter suppression. We, as exciting as this is for us,
You gotta win.
we cannot sleep on Trump.
No.
We cannot get tricked by polls. We cannot get tricked by, oh my goodness, nobody would want him in office any longer. We've all tried it. He didn't deliver. He's got our economy jacked up. He's got Americans dying that didn't have to die. He's got schools not open. All the things. We actually need to be fighting like we've never fought before to get the vote out. To be very aware of voter suppression. It is something in the last couple of days I have really been trying to read more about and understand, because I you hear about it, and living in Washington, D.C. is its own kind of isolating bubble, but getting on a plane and going out of this little bubble, DMV area to places like Illinois and places Massachusetts, among we like to characterize the Trump voter one way. The Trump voter is across the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to really mobilize the vote. The people have to understand what the stakes are for this this election. I mean, we always say every election is super important. I don't even know if 4 more years of President Trump, how will we recover on the world stage?
Yeah.
Won't.
I mean, I know domestically, but it's such we are a global economy. So when
We
you
can't go to
have
Canada.
when America slips on the world stage, I mean,
Angela Merkel's gone.
I just
Yeah, I mean, I hear that because I think about that. And the one thing I've talked about with someone else was regarding, that global economics, that global tie that we have with one another. And what does that mean? I mean, the fact is, because of this pandemic, we've had to spend trillions upon trillions of dollars, and probably going to spend trillions more in order to prop up an economy that were the right necessary actions and policies and directives put in place up front, and honesty to say, yo, this is a potentiality, we're putting these things in place. There's a bill that comes due at the end of this, right? And that bill, for these trillions of dollars is something we're having to pay somebody else, in interest on that. The thing is, without the revenue coming in, and this is because with the economy is a cyclical thing. Without the revenue coming in, you're trying to take a, income tax break, trying to give us an income tax break, and put out more trillions. The fact is that at some point, it's going to come to a head. You can't print forever. The only reason why the Fed can print as much money as they can is because right now the world still says that U.S. guarantee still means something. Miss one payment, miss one, it's a wrap. Because then they look at us like, well, this is junk stuff now. This is junk bond now. Now we got to pay a high interest rate, which then makes us become an Italy or a France or someone else who has to pay a tremendous amount in interest just to get people interested in investing in their country, which means ultimately that our influence decreases, our economy starts to collapse, and then ultimately this experiment, because now we're traipsing in despotism, goes away. It becomes Benjamin Franklin's warning, to the Constitution.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I so agree, Kyrie. A couple things you reminded me. I think it was Meacham. Is it Jonathan Meacham?
Yeah.
Who said, in one way you could almost age this country at Kamala's 55. The Voting Rights Act. I'm 55, 65, born in 65. Voting Rights Act, 65, and you think about when every citizen was able to vote.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of like a developing nation when it comes to this democracy. We are, if you will, teenagers, So some of this is natural, the natural growing pains. But what we want to do is be very aware, as you said, this is an idea, this is an experiment. This is not something that is guaranteed. And we still want a country that when people come from different nations to move, to go through to leave your home, to go to another country, to start anew because you believe the opportunities are better. And then to say, I'm buying in and I'm going to become an American. The values of America, that's the soul of the nation that Joe Biden is trying to say, hey, we are far better than all the polarization that we have going on. And we are still a country where we should actually be proud that people would leave their homes.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we want them to have to leave their homes. That's a whole other side of it.
Right.
Like policies just make other
Right.
countries poor where people
Right.
have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
But that if someone wants to come here and start anew, that there is an idea, there's a value system, there are principles that they can say, no, this is something I want to graft into and become and be proud of. And so that is what I think that's what this election is about. Remembering who we are principally. Yes, we're all Black people on this podcast. We are intimate with the historical, the underpinnings of how this nation started. However, having lived overseas, having traveled overseas, I don't know of too many other democratic nations where there is any type of a different majority, right?
Right.
Where you would even have Barack Obama,
Right.
or a Kamala Harris.
Right.
So I think we have to actually recognize the truth of that, where we could have people who feel like, yeah, I'm gonna, a Mark Charles, our Native American brother, who's in the race, who's bringing issues that need to be brought to the forefront. So I think that we need to recognize the more perfect union that we're all trying to strive for, and recognize we have someone actually occupying the Oval Office who doesn't have, I think, a real clue as to what it means, to what this country stands for, and what the Constitution stands for, and what, and those things that are good in the Constitution,
I would say I think he has a clue. I just think that he doesn't agree with it and he doesn't care. I think he doesn't like it.
Yeah, he surrounded himself with people. Sorry, Shawnee. He surrounded himself with people that support that help him achieve that. I mean, I think Cherie said, if he wins the next election, what is this country, like the damage that's been done over the last 4 years? How are we going to recover for the next 4 years on the global stage and domestically? When you look at, I was telling some folks about the judicial appointments and how I think he is 10 judicial appointments. I could be wrong, but he only has a few more judicial appointments left for the Court of Appeals in this country before he's achieved, the majority of judges are going to be Trump appointees. And then let's not even talk about the Supreme Court. So, so while we're focusing on a lot of these other things, he's dismantling like environmental laws. I mean, a lot of the, healthcare laws. So we're focusing on sort of the big, the big sound bites and the terrible things that he's doing, that we see publicly. When you look at the institutions that are being eroded and the laws that are being eroded, and then who he's propping up into different positions of authority, that will outlive his election, that will outlive him even potentially. That is a problem for this country that will take more than 10, 20 years to Jordan and Linda will be dealing with that.
Absolutely. I think you hit it on the head. I think that he is a evil type of genius, and I think that his super weapon is distraction. He there's so much going on that we get distracted, and meanwhile, he's breaking down and building up things. And I think that for me, I mean, I put a pause to say, oh, he doesn't have a response to, the Harris ticket. Why don't they have a good response? He should know. I think that I don't know. I think that he's a lot smarter. I think that's part of our problem before. I think that a lot of Democrats, I think that the campaign underestimated him. They underestimated his doggedness. They underestimated his strategy. He's very strategic, And I think that that put us in a bad spot. And they also underestimated, Cherie, you alluded to this, who is actually supporting Trump. They underestimated. There was a specific picture of who the Trump supporter was, what they looked like, where they worked, what their economic status was, what their class status was. And it was just very specific. And I think that, you know, we have to broaden that view and come into the reality that I believe Trump is smart. He's brilliant. He uses it for wrong. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not a believer that, I don't think that he's, you know, that there's nothing on up there. And so I think that he's,
but I also think we need to also recognize the fact that
savvy.
And when you look at the Electoral College, you look at the places where he won, you look at the voting, the voting electorate out there, he really won in many cases, just by the fact that there were so many people that didn't realize their power. And I think in the wake of John Lewis and the directives from Morale to say, get out and vote.
Yeah.
He lost because there was just significant enough people that said they just stayed home. It wasn't because the Trump supporter put them in. It's because the potential Hillary supporter stayed home.
Yeah.
Can I just end, Ali, I not even end, but I just wanted to get these two quotes.
Get it out.
To this moment now. One is from when I was reading Democracy in America from de Tocqueville, and I think America has to answer this question. And he says, nothing is more wonderful than the art of being free, but nothing is harder to learn how to use than freedom. We all talk about his quote about the American experiment, but that experiment in and of itself is freedom. And so we have also an opportunity to go and vote and, you know, wield the power and the sword. But it's a privilege, and we don't have to do it. We get to do it. And so I think that's something that, you know, we really have to take seriously. It's not something that we can sit on our heels and kind of have it your way mentality. I think the guy, Mohammed Safa, was brilliant in saying, this is not a marriage, but you need to go and vote to the closest thing that is going to get us to the more perfect union. But the reality is, in that statement, it recognizes that we were never perfect. And in a pluralistic society, it is an open enough interpretation to acknowledge that there are going to be different versions of what that looks like.
That's right.
But everyone has the responsibility to put their painting on the wall to create this mosaic. The second thing I want to say is a quote that was iterated by Senator Booker last night on Kamala Harris. And I think it's worth repeating the first at least lines of this, in response particularly to her being the quote unquote perceived mean, nasty, angry, un-American Black woman that will be the VP and I dare say president of the United States. So to Kamala, he said, this is quoting Senator Booker, who was then quoting Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. I'm going to skip down a few. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? Because I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. That's to the person that said she sounded like Marge Simpson. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by soulful cries? This is not, and I'm going to say this too, because she looks good. Does my sexiness upset you?
Holla.
I'm sure it does, because they're like, I didn't know. I know when Aunt Jemima's the only view of a Black woman you have. I know it's surprising that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meetings of my thighs. So, I say all this to say, she'll rise. And I think America is going to have to ask the question of its freedom. I'm excited. I'm inspired. I'm ready to go. Let's get fired up as
Let's get fired up. Okay, we're gonna. I want only one, guys, as we wrap this up. I want one piece of advice. If someone from the Biden-Harris campaign were listening, like you were like sitting down, you were able to get one word to them, what piece of advice would you give them to do or to focus on over these next 82 days? Cherie, I'm gonna give you think time. I'm gonna go to Jordan first.
That's not how dialogue works. Go to dad. You gotta balance it out. I'm thinking I just, Daddy.
He's quick on his feet.
Yeah, one thing.
One thing. Oh gosh. Ignore distractions.
Ignore distractions. That's good. That's good. Kyrie?
When he punches back.
Okay, punch back. Okay. Ree?
Prosecute. Bring all your skills to bear.
That's right.
I have it.
Jordan?
Remember. Just remember. Remember, obviously, 2016 and that traumatic night.
Yes.
Remember, the history of the legs that she stands on. And remember, she's good at this of her own upbringing. But the biggest sin of the Israelites was that they forgot who saved them.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
related to that, because I did all day long, I had this thought with it. I'm sorry. I know it was one.
You're breaking the rules.
I
Lauren.
know.
Go ahead.
Enneagram 1 here, but I'm a 5.
Don't put my Enneagram out like
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry. I take it back. She's not.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, but Kamala's mother said, "Don't let other people define you," and I think that is related to Jordan's remembering. And I've been thinking about that all day long. Such sage advice from her mom that I know she wishes her mom were here, but not letting other people define her.
Yeah. Great. That's good. This is good. Hope you guys are listening. That is some good advice. And I would say to everyone, and what John Lewis, I mentioned this in the last podcast, in his op-ed last piece that he wrote that was published in the New York Times, that he had published when he died. He said that voting is nonviolent protest. That's how he sees it. And I was like, it was like a light bulb went off in my head, because I never really thought about voting as protest. And it is our way to protest. So everybody, please get out and vote. We're going to wrap up our show tonight by doing something that we're doing new here and giving a shout out to someone brilliant within the community. And today's honorable mention goes to 13-year-old Nayla Avant-Garde from Harvey, LA, and she won this year's National Online Spelling Bee. She took home the title of Spelling Champ and $10,000. Zayla says she studied all the time, in her car, outside, on the basketball court, everywhere and anywhere. And she studied her words carefully and precisely. And I really love that she was like carefully and precisely. And she said she was honored to have been competing against such smart people. In addition to being a word whiz, Zayla, who also plays basketball, holds the Guinness World Record for the most bounce juggles in 1 minute. And this record earned her a performance with the Harlem Globetrotters and a cameo in Steph Curry's Under Armour commercial. So Zayla girl, we salute you and your fabulousness, Miss Zayla. Miss Zayla, yes, we salute you.
And precisely, I like it.
I love that she studied it carefully and precisely. It was so good. So Everyone, we've just enjoyed hanging out with you all tonight. Thank you, Cherie, Lorenzo, and Jordan. It is always fun being with you guys. And again, if this is your first time listening to our podcast, we welcome you. Please visit us on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find us wherever you like to listen to your podcast. And if you want to check out all the facial expressions and all of the stuff that was happening during the show, you can check us on our YouTube channel. It is the space in between. In between is one word on YouTube. So we would love to have you there. Again, this has been fabulous. In the words of John Lewis, be kind, be mindful, stay engaged, and please, whatever you need to do, vote. Everybody, vote. Get on that bus. Get on that bus and vote. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.